So now that we have learned linear equations, let's look at some of the words that will translate into some operations. So whenever you're writing linear equations, you'll be given either in the form of sentence or otherwise just like a simple story or a word problem. So there are certain words that you need to know what operations you are actually going to use for those words, and then use variables to write the linear equation or any other equations. So let's look at some of the words. For add, you can actually just have the word add itself. What are the other words you can think of? Sum. So there are some other words that in your daily life you'll use most of these words. So let's say, what about the profit? Profit. So if you're actually getting profit out of some business, so that means you're actually getting more money. So that money is actually getting added to whatever money you have. So profit is addition. So another word is increase. Increase. So if something gets increased, so you're actually adding it. Or someone says you have 20 more marbles than someone else. So more. More is another word. So these are all the words wherever you encounter them. So you're actually going to perform addition. So what about subtract? So you can actually have the word subtract itself. Then the other word, usual word that you have learned is difference. Again subtract. So we used increase here, so we can actually use decrease. Decrease. And there was profit, and here I can have loss. Or sometimes if someone says more or less, I have 5 less chocolates compared to someone else, so I'm going to subtract them. So let's look at multiply. So what happens? We have seen one or two examples we have seen just in the previous videos where I use the word times. Times actually says it's multiplication. So I have 2 times any item than someone else, so I'm going to multiply that by 2. So if not, what is the other word you use? Usual word, product. Product is another one. Or of, where you might have encountered this. You might have encountered this in BODMAS. Of, order, of, so many are there. So if I take this as of is actually multiplication. Example, half of 20. 1 by 2 multiplied by 20, so you find the value of that. So another thing is, so where we'll try to write these ones with the examples as well. So let's go to divide. So divide, what you use, so either you can actually use word divide itself, or otherwise some number divided by some number, by, or in the sentence they might use the word quotient. So you need to understand where the quotient is. You get only quotient when you divide two numbers. A number gives me quotient, but this can also give me remainder. So just for now, remember the quotient. So let's look at some examples. So if someone says sum of A and B, sum of A and B, which is written as A plus B. Remember, I'm actually using A, B as variables. So you can actually use X and Y as variable. But in your word problems or anywhere you are actually assigning variables, you need to mention that let the value of this be X, let the value of this be Y. So then everyone knows what you are actually assuming. So profit, I had someone actually had 100 rupees, and then he had X amount of profit. So that will be his total amount. Same thing goes with increase. Difference, so let's say decrease or less. Some person A actually has 50 pencils, person B has X number of less pencils. What does that mean? How much percent? This is the variable. So 50 minus x. Don't do x minus 50 because you have to read the sentences very carefully. What you are subtracting from which number. If I were to write x minus 50, he has less. He's not going to go more than 50. So if I'm going to put this as 10, 50 minus 10 is actually going to give me 40. But 10 minus 50 is actually going to give me minus 40. As you know from integers, this will be a negative number. No one has actually minus 40 pencils, so you have 40. So always remember where and how you use variables. So coming to multiplication. So there are so many things that you can come up with multiplication. One is times. We already know about it. 3 times x is written as 3 into x, which is 3 into x, which is 3x. Product of a and b is a multiplied by b. So let's take some other examples from multiplication itself. Twice. What do you do? These are some of the straight words. You don't have to use 2 times. Twice. Someone actually has twice your money. X is my money, whatever money you have, so that is twice. Same thing goes with thrice. So that is 3 times x. This can take any value. Either you have money, pencils, chocolates, anything. So that's the value you get. That is 3x. So now let's say some of the examples that you might use. Let's go with the division first. A number is divided by another number gives rise to a quotient. So a number divided by 2 times that number gives 5. You just saw how I actually made that sentence. A number, I took it as x, divided by 2 times that same number, 2 times that x gives rise to 5. So this will be my quotient. That's one number, that's another number that I've taken. X is the number, 2 times the x denominator, that is a numerator. So if I divide this, I'm going to get 5. That's the sentence. So these are all the things that you need to remember. So some more examples. Let's look at, you will also encounter some of the word problems on age. So person A is age is 5 years less than person B. So in this case, I can actually just take A and B, but let's see whose age we don't know. We don't know both the ages, but there is a condition which is given as 5 years less. A's age is 5 years less than B. So if I consider person A's age as X, then I don't have any condition to write for B. So that means this is not going to work. So if I take person B's age as X, A's age is 5 times less, 5 years less. So that means X minus 5. Don't do 5 minus X. So remember, if I give the same example with yourself, so your sister or brother is 5 years less. You're not going to, if your age is 10 and your brother is 5 years, brother's age is 5 years less, you're actually going to do 10 minus 5, not 5 minus 10. 5 minus 10 is actually going to give you minus 5. There is no number where you can actually come up with minus 5 years. So remember exactly the numbers, how you actually deduct. That actually makes much difference when you're writing them as equations, and the value you're going to get by writing wrong equation is actually going to give you wrong result. So these are all the basic things that you need to know, how to use operators and writing simple linear equations.